I had applied for a job in Portland, but the man who was interviewing me at the very end, he's like, I think the last question that we need to discuss is how much money is it going to take to like secure this for you? And as a joke, I answered to that saying, you just need to pay me more that is better than traveling the world with my family for free. And as those words left my mouth, I just came to this realization like, oh shoot, no amount of money is better than traveling the world with my family for free, let alone getting paid for it.
In 2015, Garrett G started documenting an international family vacation that was only supposed to last 4 months. He posted videos of himself, his wife Jessica, and their kids on YouTube and Instagram under the name The Bucket List Family. Fast forward 10 years, and that short trip has turned into a business and an inspiration to countless others. The Bucket List Family has acquired millions of followers online as they bring their audience along on their world travels. They've gone shark diving in South Africa, watched hot air balloons in Turkey, biked through shrines and gardens in Japan, and learned about ancient mythology in the heart of Greece. Garrett and his family chose a life that pushes them beyond their comfort zone, into new places, real challenges, and experiences that change how they see the world. I'm Shelby Stanger, and this is Wild Ideas Worth Living, an REI Co-op Studios production presented by Capital One and the REI Co-op MasterCard. Garrett G., welcome to Wild Ideas Worth Living.
Thank you for having me.
Where do we even start? Were you always like this? Like, tell me a little bit about your childhood and your love of adventure and nature.
I mean, if the question is like, have I always been into like going against the grain? Yeah, for sure. Like that's just an innate part of who I am. Same with like the entrepreneurial side. I was that kid that was like collecting rocks in my backyard because I just loved being outside and nature and all of that. But then the entrepreneur in me would kick in and I'd like put them on a table, put them in my front yard and sell them back to like the other neighbor kids. And I grew up in like quite the wealthy neighborhood. So it wasn't uncommon for me to be able to like put a price tag on like a $20 rock or like a $50 crystal, and like kids would buy them.
Where did you grow up?
In Utah, a place called Alpine, Utah.
And so there was a lot of nature there too. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of nature, a lot of outdoors, a lot of, skiing. It was a cool place where I grew up. They had what was called ski bus, and a bus would come from our school straight to the ski resort. And so we like lived on the mountain.
So after school, you would ski almost every day?
The ski bus was once a week.
That's pretty great, though, for a kid.
We loved it. And also the amount of just like epic lifelong stories that happened. I'm pretty sure like half of our grade had their first kiss on ski bus. Like it was just where life happened.
What about the travel, though? Like, where did that come from?
My personal love for traveling can be thanks mostly to my mom because my mom is just, as much as I love travel, she loves travel 100 times more than me. And we had our like highs and lows as a family financially, and for good and for bad, it didn't matter if we were on a high or a low. My mom was traveling. So I had the fortunate opportunity. By the time I was in high school, I had seen like most of Europe and been to maybe 40 countries.
Love that. How did you meet your wife?
We were both on Mormon church missions. And if you don't know too much about that, it's like when a young man turns 19 and a young woman turns, I think, the age of 20, they might have changed it since, but you choose if you want to go on a mission for 2 years, but you don't choose where you go. And so I grew up in Utah. My wife grew up in Colorado, and I had friends that got sent to Atlanta, Georgia, and to South Korea and Ghana. And my wife and I got sent to Russia. So we met in Vladivostok, Russia in 2008.
What was that like for, being a 19-year-old, 20-year-old in Russia?
It was the most difficult, most depressing, scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I've done quite a bit of experiences, and nothing even comes close to like how difficult that was as a 19-year-old to be plucked away from your friends, your sports and hobbies and your family, and just be like put into this very foreign land where you don't know the culture, you don't speak the language or understand the language. And then to take something that's near and dear to you as like your faith and your religion, and to try to share that earnestly with other people and have them often literally like persecute or like actually try to beat you up is a really intense thing for a 19-year-old to go through.
Wow, I bet. We actually have had a few Mormons on the show who've talked about that and also how they learned to pitch. Like they learned how to get rejected at a really young age
Uh-huh.
and accept failure. And it was horrible, but I
That's
don't
funny you
know.
say that. I not long ago I was in a pitch meeting with an investor, and he straight up was like, "Look, I'm all in on this business mostly because," he's like, "I don't think I've ever seen someone as good a pitch as you." And I was like, "Look," and I explained to him the whole Russia situation. And I was like, "If I can for 2 years sell religion to Russians, I can sell anything."
In 2008, Garrett came back to the US. He went to college at Brigham Young University, played on the soccer team, and started dating Jessica. The pair got married and moved in together the following year.
That time could be probably best summarized as my wife like following me as I followed my dreams. I was playing college soccer in Utah at BYU, and then I was pursuing a startup. I had created an iPhone app called Scan, and then I sold that to Snapchat. And so our life was going all over the place as dictated by my dreams. And I had told my wife, let me finish out my full career of college soccer, and then whatever we do next can be your decision. And her idea was, what if we did a little bit of traveling?
Those became famous last words in their family. What went into like the decision? Like you'd sold this app to Snapchat, which is pretty awesome. I mean, you were pretty young when you did that.
Yeah. It was for a lot of money, like life-changing amount of money. And so people just assumed when they saw us like take off for this trip around the world that we were spending that money. But we're very proud of the fact that that was not the case. I mentioned my family had been through like highs and lows financially. Like I've seen far more money than we have disappear overnight. Fortunately, me and Jessica were on the same page financially, that we felt in our hearts it was not right to spend or splurge this money. And so that's what led to her idea of, should we do a little bit of traveling? Like, let's go do 4 to 6 months of traveling, learn from different cultures, and then maybe we'll have then a better idea of like how we want to live life, where we want to live, how we want to spend this money and such. So we had devised a plan of, let's do a yard sale, sell everything. We had 2 cars at the time. And from selling all of that, mostly the 2 cars, it came out to be about $45,000. So that was the plan. Let's travel for 4 to 6 months until this $45,000 is gone. And at that point, we'll get back to life. So everything from the acquisition of selling my company had gone into savings and investments. And the entrepreneur in me is very proud of the fact that we were able to take that 45K and start a YouTube channel, start an Instagram, and work really hard during our initial travels. Any place that we would go, we would reach out to hotels, Airbnbs, airlines, like any brand that we could, hoping they'd either sponsor us or give us a discount. And our promise to them was like, hey, we'll show you off on our social media, all like 1,000 of our YouTube subscribers and maybe like 10,000 of our Instagram followers. And you can imagine we just got a lot of people who didn't understand what we were even asking, because influencer wasn't really a business model yet. But bit by bit, people would understand or take a chance on us. And at first they were just giving us discounts or stuff for free. And then eventually they started to pay us when they saw it working. And that $45,000 went from like bleeding out really quickly, and then it slowed up. And before it hit zero, we started to become profitable, never touching or dipping into that initial acquisition money savings.
Oh, I love that you told me the financial story of this, because so many people listen to this podcast and they're like, well, I could only do that if I had a trust
Totally.
fund or I sold a company or whatever. I mean, I started this podcast with, I think, $3,000 and it was like painful.
Sometimes people will ask us like, do you think you could have or would have done it without that, safety net back home of having sold everything? It's a good question, because despite what people usually assume, my wife and I, we're not big risk takers when it comes to finances. Like, I'll tell you, again, despite what you might see online, because we live this very adventurous lifestyle, but we're extremely frugal. We most of the time don't go on these trips and adventures unless we're able to work together some sort of like sponsorship situation. And so, yeah, it's a tough call because on the one hand, I want to be like, no, we get credit for doing this without that savings because we didn't touch it. But for sure, it played a role knowing that that was there to fall back on. So I think if somebody said you would not have taken that risk without it, they might be right. I don't know. It's hard to know.
I appreciate that honesty. So initially, you guys decided to travel for just sounds like 4 months, right?
Yep. That was the initial plan. It was kind of like budgeted out 4 to 6 months. We'll see how long it lasts. And I think it was 6 countries that we were going to visit.
So was there an early experience where you were like, we're going to keep going?
Again, it was mostly my wife, Jessica, who she, to her own surprise, liked the adventures, like being away from home, likes living out of suitcase, like being more minimal, love the time as if together as a family, like all of it. And so it wasn't me convincing her. It was more so just a conversation of like, we want to keep going. How do we make this work financially? And that's when we started to like double down and really try to like work with brands and such.
I love it because early on you could kind of customize what you did with brands. There wasn't like, oh, if you have this many followers, we'll do exactly this. There wasn't like a
Mhm.
formula.
And it was so hit and miss because I remember we were working with the tourism board of Greece, and the lady was like, "So we can't pay you, but we can host you, and we will, ask you to post this many times on Instagram." And I was like, "Wonderful. How about YouTube?" And she's like, "Well, how does YouTube work?" And I was like, "It's the same but videos." And she's like, "And you just upload them?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "And where do people see them?" I was like, "Oh, you're like completely new to this." And then like the next month we're working with the Reno, Nevada, and they have like the biggest budget that we've ever worked with. And so like it was just the Wild West at the time. So much learning, so much training. We stayed at one hotel where my wife literally set up their Instagram account for them so we could tag them.
These were the early days of social media, when sponsored content and influencing were uncharted territory. After 4 months of traveling through Australia and Southeast Asia, Garrett and Jessica weren't ready to come home. They had fallen in love with their new lifestyle, even though it wasn't always smooth or easy. So, what parts in the beginning felt especially terrifying? Do you have any stories of those early days?
There was definitely like, man, when you're trying to make $45,000 stretch, like you're counting every dollar. And I remember being in New Zealand and we got hit so hard with extra like checked baggage fees. And I was like, guys, you're like literally stripping away like weeks and stops to our adventure. It was like so heartbreaking. And it was a learning lesson that we like, you know what, like, do we pay this fee or do we just ditch this stuff? Because we've now been traveling for about a month and we haven't touched like the majority of our stuff. It's one of the beauties of travel. You just learn like minimalism at its finest. So that was one of the first lessons I remember. And another one was this time we're at the airport in Miami and we had like missed our flight and then things weren't lining up and it was just one of those most stressful travel days. And all of a sudden I hear like a blood curdling scream and I turn around and you know that like luggage cart that your kids should not sit on, our child was sitting on it and fell off and just smashed his face and it's just blood everywhere and he needed stitches. And my wife is like now crying and Jessica's like, should we go home? And then she starts crying even harder, being like, we don't have a home.
Oh no.
But the silver lining there, the beauty in the lesson we learned that day was your family is your home.
You talk about silver linings so much on your Instagram and your YouTube. And I think that lesson of silver linings is something that you really learn when you travel and you adventure. I mean, even Yvonne Chouinard has that famous quote, it's not an adventure until something goes wrong.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, right? You can't like there's no such thing as like there's just the perfect vacation. And if it is, it's kind of boring. The highs and the lows are just all part of the journey.
I'm curious, maybe you could talk about some of the things you guys do on your trips, because I'm guessing most people will know you who are listening to this podcast, but there's going to be a few people who don't yet follow the Bucket List family.
I'd say this, when we first got started, like our last name is G. We're the G family. But the designer and entrepreneur in me wasn't about to go on like a 6-month vacation. I wanted to, build something and create something. Like that's my favorite part about entrepreneurship. It truly isn't about the money for me. I just love creating things, designing things. And so then I created a logo, it says the Bucket List family, but in a lot of colors. And it feels like watercolor painting, but like to the most vibrant level. And my thought there was life can feel pretty dull and black and white. And that's the beauty of travel, because every time you visit a new place or a new culture, it literally like infuses vibrancy into your life. And then there's a symbol that is 3 brushstrokes. And why we had come up with that is because Jessica and I had decided we wanted to put more meaning and purpose behind our travels. So we came up with adventure, culture, and service. That represents the 3 stripes, red, blue, and green. And the thought there was every culture that we visit or every country that we visit, we want to try to do 3 things. A unique adventure. So let's take example of like New Zealand. Bungee jumping was invented in New Zealand. What a cool, unique adventure. And to do it in that place where it was, originally invented. And then a unique culture experience. And so I remember when we were in Bhutan, we were at these monasteries with these monks, and they invited us to shave our heads. And as you can see, like my hair is quite long. It was very long at the time. And so it was quite the big ask. I'd be like, oh my gosh, should we shave our heads? So me and our middle child, Manila, both shaved our heads. And then the last goal, service, was every place that we go, let's do a service project, big or small. Sometimes they've been big, like we funded and built a school in India. And sometimes it's been small, like, we hear a heartful story from our taxi driver and give him the tip of his life. And so those 3 things, adventure, culture, and service, have definitely shaped our travels and our mindset. And that's what originated like the logo of the Bucket List family.
If everybody could travel like you guys, that would be amazing. I mean, everywhere you go, you should do an adventure, experience the culture, and give back.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds pretty simplistic, but it adds so much more to each of your travels.
We talk a lot on this show about the training and gear you need to go after a wild idea. With the REI Co-op MasterCard, everyday purchases can support your wild ideas and turn them into limitless possibilities. Trail miles, summit views, and that family camping trip you plan to take this summer. Here's how it works. Card members earn 5% in card rewards on every purchase at REI and 1.5% on everything else. Groceries, gas, your morning coffee, it all adds up. And the best part, you can redeem card rewards as soon as you earn them. That means grabbing those new trail runners you've been eyeing and keeping more cash in your pocket. It's quick and easy to see if you're pre-approved. To learn more about the REI Co-op MasterCard program, go to rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. That's rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. Terms apply. If you spend a lot of time in the ocean, surfing, swimming, or just sitting and watching the waves, you probably want to protect it as much as I do. That's why I want to tell you about Ocean Bottle. Ocean Bottle is made for people who care about the ocean, about good design, and about leaving things better than we found them. Every bottle they sell funds the removal of 1,000 plastic bottles before they hit the ocean. That work is part of a mission to stop 10 billion plastic bottles from polluting our oceans by 2030. If you're looking for a simple way to make an impact, Ocean Bottle recently launched their Peak range. It's slimmer, stronger, 100% leak-proof, and designed to keep your drinks at the right temperature longer. Check out Ocean Bottle at your local REI or at rei.com. You know that feeling when the trail turns a corner and boom, in front of you is a massive mountain or jaw-dropping canyon vista. Now imagine that view is in Peru, Alaska, or Morocco. REI Co-op is teaming up with the globe-trotting experts at Intrepid Travel to bring you a curated mix of global and domestic trips that are outside the ordinary, with bucket list destinations, small groups, and local leaders who actually know the place you're exploring. The best news is that members save more with exclusive member pricing. Starting March 15th through the end of April, REI Co-op members get an additional $100 off all REI and Intrepid trips over $1,000. And that's on top of existing member travel benefits. The only question is, where will you go? Explore the REI and Intrepid travel collections at rei.com/travel. That's rei.com/travel. Terms apply. In 2015, Garrett G took his family on a vacation and they never came home. They continued traveling, taking their young family to dream destinations like Chile, Switzerland, Rwanda, Greece, Fiji, Italy. The list goes on and on. But after 3 years of living a fully nomadic life, the bucket list family decided that they were ready to put down some roots. Eventually, you guys have decided to have a home base. What sparked that decision, and how have your especially your kids reacted to it?
I don't know. I'll admit, like we live the best of both lives because we love traveling. And let me just say selfishly, as a dad who so many dads out there don't get to spend a lot of time with their kids because of work. And then especially as kids become older, you're losing time with them to clubs and school and friends and sports and practices, all the sorts. So when we're traveling and I have like undivided attention, time, quality time with my family, I just treasure it so much. But it was when my daughter, Dorothy, became kindergarten age. And she had, seen so much of the world. And if you could ask her, what do you want most in life? She would say, I want to go to school. I want a desk with my name on it. I want a locker and I want a best friend. Like that's what she wanted. And so truly as parents, we love the travel, adventure, all of it. But at the end of the day, nothing's going to compete with like just trying to give our kids what they need and the best life possible. And so that's when we decided to try to settle down. And we had looked seriously in New Zealand. We had even applied for a visa and got accepted. But then my wife got pregnant with our third. And so then we pivoted to look at stuff closer to home. And we went and just looked at some properties in Hawaii, from Oahu, Big Island, Maui. And it was when we were doing that tour that my wife met some like incredible families, an amazing community. So for my wife, it was more about the community that she fell in love with. And for me, I was like, oh, and as soon as she says yes to any of these islands, like I'm pouncing on it. And so we chose Hawaii as a place to settle down.
Garrett has loved living in Hawaii. He's able to surf most days, and the family has built a wonderful community there. But having a home base doesn't mean that the bucket list family is ready to stop going after wild ideas. In fact, Garrett recently went after his own wild idea, a childhood dream that most people wouldn't consider a possibility, especially for someone his age. You recently decided to become a professional soccer player. That's so bananas, especially to someone who's now 45 and is like, I played a lot of street soccer even after college, but like, I feel like I would break my knees if I tried to play soccer today.
Bruh, this was the one. It's funny. Some of the like hateful comments on this one have me like proper shook, because I'm like, how do you hate at this like old dad literally just trying to live up his glory days? I'm like, guys, I'm very self-aware. Like I know that I didn't make it as a young man into the pros. Like I'm devastated on the daily of that. You don't got to remind me. So what happened is a professional team in Tonga had reached out and said, we would like to invite you to join our team, we qualified for this tournament for the first time ever, and it allows us 3 international players. We'd love to recruit you. And the answer was immediately a yes. Doesn't I'm just a yes man like that. But I did kind of like push my luck, and I said, few questions. Can I also? I had like gone to their Instagram page and stalked the team, and I was like, yeah, they need new jerseys. And so I'm like, if I sponsor your jerseys, can I design them? And they said yes. So I got to redesign the jerseys. It was in a very cool way. I had like my own company's logo on the chest. Anyways, going into this, I had no clue. Am I going to play at all? Am I going to start? Am I going to play 90 minutes? Am I going to play no minutes? Like, I just didn't know. How good is my team going to be? Like, all these were questions. The tournament was 3 games. I started all 3 games and I never subbed out. I'll give myself props, and like pretty quickly on game 1 proved to the coach I can play. And from that point on, I just never subbed out, and it was exhausting. Holy cow. This is the closest my body has ever come to just like full on shutting down. I haven't run like marathons and stuff like that. But this one put me to my limit and beyond.
And what do your kids think about that? I mean, they see you guys daily going for it, whatever that is. I mean, your wife put yourself out there. She wrote a book with Nat Geo. Like, you guys have done a lot of things that are just out of your comfort zone.
What was the one? There was something the other day that oh, it was wake surfing, and I was trying to pull off a 360, and my kids have seen me try and fail for like 2 years. And I eventually got it, and that was cool to see my kids like see me succeed. But honestly, for me, the more important parenting lesson was like them seeing me how okay I was trying something and failing and failing and failing. Because my kids, I would say it's hard for me to admit, but like in a great, like most blame to me, my kids, I think, are exceptionally hard on themselves, and just have high expectations for themselves. And for me, it's not like I'm trying to just be a pushy parent. Probably nobody is, but it's just like I just see so much potential and have so much faith in my kids. I think they're just the greatest humans ever. And so definitely I'll admit, like, my expectations for them are high in every way, whether it's like I expect you to, be great surfers, or I expect you to be brave, or I expect you to be the most kind, lovely human ever. Like, all of my expectations for them are high, and that can be hard on them. So they get very frustrated when they fail. So anytime they can see me trying something and routinely fail, I appreciate
That's a good parenting tip, like fail in front of your kids.
it.
You really parent your kids differently than a lot of other people. It's really cool. You like to teach them about discomfort and adventure. Talk to me about some of the things that you've taught them so that they could be prepared on these travels.
Yeah, when it comes specifically to like important skills while traveling, a lot of it is funny because to an outsider who doesn't do extreme sports or this type of adventurous living, it might seem dangerous. Well, I know it seems dangerous to them because we get trolled in the comments like constantly.
No, yeah, I've seen that.
But
I'm like, no, this is actually really safe.
funny enough, the reason why we do it is for safety, because it's like I always think back to this. When I grew up, I was next door neighbors with this kid whose mom would not let him leave his own driveway while riding his bike. And I mean, growing up in Utah back in 80s and 90s, I mean, we were riding our bikes everywhere. That was like life. That was childhood. And this kid couldn't leave his driveway. And so we would just see him as we came and went. And guess who broke both his arms falling off his bike on his own driveway? It was that kid, because he literally just didn't have the bike skills that we had. So much of what we push our kids to learn is actually for safety, because if you're in the ocean, how important is it to just be comfortable and know waves and swell and tides? Free diving is one of the most important skills, I think, altogether in life, just because how much it's a balance of mind, body, and spirit. That, yeah, the body can only hold its breath as long as it can. The muscles in the lungs really don't change as much as your mind does. It's most of your progress that you make is because your mind changes. And so, like, what a cool thing to train your mind and realize your abilities as a human. And how does that bleed into every other thing you do in life? Realizing like, oh, I'm capable of so much more than I'm currently aware of. Because when you hold your breath for anything more than like 10 seconds, your instincts kick off and these alarms start going off in your brain being like, I'm uncomfortable, I need air, I think I'm dying. When in reality, you're not. So having the mental capacity to like override all those red alarms, that practice can take place in and out of the water.
What do you think your kids will say one day about how they grew up?
Undoubtedly, they'll have endless stories of all their adventures. It's a beautiful thing to see how well they remember them. Maybe in thanks to some of our like videos that we've created, I think that'll be like a treasure waiting for us once we get older. But still, they like a fun thing we'll do at dinner sometimes is like trivia. Last night, my daughter's like, will you give us some travel trivia? They like me to ask questions about like, okay, where were we when Callie had a bot fly embed into his head? And so they'll give questions like that. They remember all of it. It's a really fun, beautiful thing. But I also just hope that they realize how much me and Jessica have just tried to be like good mom and good dad. Just having a very beautiful home life is something that we've worked really hard at. And most of the credit would go to Jessica of like how special that is. And so hopefully the kids appreciate that as well.
Yeah, you guys sound like you're doing it right. What advice would you give to a parent listening to this podcast who's looking to have a wild life?
Ooh, good question. I think it's like don't put any limitations on yourself. Everyone can have the excuses of like, I can't leave the country or I can't afford this or different things like that. And it's like there's so many adventures in your own backyard, adventures that are big and small. I mean, we're like a world traveling family, but there's a lot of families I look up to that are like a road tripping family or families that just go camping nearby and all of that. Like whatever is your style of adventure, it can be done. And so just not putting excuses in the way of your dreams.
If you want to follow Garrett and his family's adventures, check out the Bucket List Family on YouTube and on Instagram. Wild Ideas Worth Living is part of the REI Podcast Network. It's hosted by me, Shelby Stanger, produced by Annie Fassler, Sylvia Thomas, and Sam Piers-Nitzberg of Puddle Creative. Our senior producer is Jenny Barber. Our executive producers are Paolo Motola and Joe Crosby. Thank you again to our partner, Capital One and the REI Co-op MasterCard. As always, we love when you follow the show, take time to rate it, and write a review wherever you listen. And remember, some of the best adventures happen when you follow your wildest ideas.